Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible and, frankly, surprising stories to ever come out of the Middle Ages. It's called Hayy ibn Yaqzan, and it's all about a self-taught philosopher.
So, picture this. The story kicks off with a real mystery. A child just appears on a deserted tropical island. Some versions say he was spontaneously generated from the earth, others that he was found in a box floating on the sea. The point is, he's totally alone. No parents, no society, nothing to teach him.
And if you thought that was strange, it gets even better. The boy is found by a mother gazelle who's lost her fawn. She adopts him, nurses him, and raises him as one of her own, right there among the animals.
He's given the name Hayy ibn Yaqzan, which in Arabic means alive, son of awake. And that name is a huge clue right from the start. It tells you this isn't just some castaway adventure story. Nope, this is an allegory about how a mind wakes up, about the pure potential of human consciousness.
But here's the real kicker. This whole story feels like it could be a modern bestseller, right? But it wasn't. It was written more than 850 years ago, back in the 12th century, which just begs the question, what kind of world could possibly produce a story this radical?
Well, the answer is complicated and, honestly, fascinating. This book came out of an empire that, on the surface, was the absolute last place you'd expect to find a story celebrating pure, independent reason. It was a place governed by a really strict, unbending religious dogma.
So, let's set the scene. We're in the middle of the Almohad Empire, a massive territory ruled by a very puritanical Berber dynasty. And they ruled with an iron fist, not just militarily, but theologically too.
And this is where you see the central contradiction of the whole era. On the one hand, you had the public face of the empire. This was all about rigid, literal faith. Independent thinking, that was seen as dangerous. But on the other hand, behind the closed doors of the palace, the caliph himself was living a totally different life. He was sponsoring philosophers, studying Aristotle, and hosting these deep, speculative debates with the smartest people around.
And I mean, the official state ideology couldn't have been clearer. The founder of the whole Almohad movement, the Mahdi, had flat out declared that reason had zero place in matters of faith. That was the law of the land.
So that's the big puzzle, right? How on earth does a story about a guy who figures out the entire universe using only his brain, no divine texts, no prophets, get written with the support of a ruler who publicly preaches the exact opposite?
The answer, the key that unlocks this whole mystery, is the author himself. He was a man who managed to live with one foot planted firmly in each of these two contradictory worlds. Let's meet him. His name was Abu Bakr ibn Tufayl, and he wasn't some kind of rebel writing in the shadows. Oh no, he was a total insider, a leading figure in the caliph's court.
I mean, just check out this resume. He was a wazir, that's a high-ranking advisor. He was the caliph's personal doctor. He was considered a master of philosophy, and he was the caliph's close friend and confidant. This guy was at the very center of power.
And their bond was seriously deep. A historian from the time wrote that Ibn Tufayl was so loved by the caliph that he would spend days and nights on end just hanging out with him at the palace. This was more than a job. It was a real intellectual partnership.
Okay, so now that we have the backstory, let's get back to the story itself. Ibn Tufayl brilliantly uses this simple idea of two islands to ask some of the biggest questions there are about reason, faith, and what it means to be human.
Hayy's journey of discovery is just incredible. It all starts with a tragedy. His gazelle mother dies. He's heartbroken and confused, so he dissects her body, trying to find what made her alive. He realizes it wasn't any single part, but something intangible he calls a spirit. And that one idea lights a fire in his mind. For decades, using only what he can see and what he can figure out, he basically teaches himself everything, from biology to astronomy to metaphysics, and eventually he arrives at this profound, direct understanding of the Creator, all of it completely on his own.
After all those years, his solitude is finally broken. A man named Asal shows up on his island. Asal comes from a neighboring island, a place with cities and society and traditional religion. He's a religious mystic, someone who's always looking for the deeper meaning behind the symbols of his faith. So Hayy and Asal start talking, and they have this amazing aha moment. They realize they both arrived at the exact same ultimate truth, just from two different directions. Hayy through pure reason, and Asal through deep faith. Hayy is so excited by this, and filled with such compassion for humanity, that he decides he has to go with Asal and share his pure, logical understanding of truth with everyone. It goes horribly. I mean, it is a complete and total disaster.
And the reason it fails is the story's most radical and maybe most controversial point. Hayy comes to realize that most people just aren't built to understand pure abstract truth. He sees that their minds need stories, concrete images, and a pretty straightforward system of divine rewards and punishments to stay on the right path.
So, realizing he's made a massive mistake, Hayy actually apologizes to the people. He tells them that their traditional religion, with all its rules and stories, is actually the perfect way for them. And with that, he and Aracel just head back to the deserted island to spend the rest of their lives in quiet contemplation.
So, what is going on here? What is the really provocative message that Ibn Tufayl is trying to get across with this ending? What's the big takeaway?
The story basically lays out this idea of a two-tiered system for truth. First, you have philosophical truth. That's Haragi's truth. It's pure, it's abstract, and it's only really accessible to a handful of people who can do that kind of deep thinking. Then, you have religious truth. This is the truth for everyone else, a necessary, symbolic version, packaged with stories and rules that the masses can actually use to live good lives.
And this, right here, is the book's brilliant justification for the caliph's contradictory life. Ibn Tufayl is arguing that you need both. Society needs mainstream religion. Trying to force abstract philosophy on everyone would just confuse them, destroy their moral compass, and lead to total chaos. The two worlds, public faith and private reason, have to be kept separate for the good of society.
And that leaves us with the book's big, lingering question. A question that is just as powerful today as it was 850 years ago. Is the deepest understanding of reality something that's really only for a tiny elite? Or is it a truth that can, and maybe should, be shared with everyone?